Hello guys, welcome to another video. In this video, we are going to discuss about PHP, Azure DevOps and Microsoft Azure. Basically, we are going to do one real-time project using PHP and Azure DevOps. And we'll be deploying them in the Microsoft Azure web app. Okay. So for this, we will be creating one web app in Microsoft Azure. We have one repository with PHP code already configured basic with name basic PHP composer, and we will be building this using Azure DevOps CI/CD pipeline. We will be publishing the artifacts and we will be deploying that artifact in our Azure web app that will be of PHP type. Okay, we will follow all the best practices and all the steps which most of the projects in real time generally do. So let's begin the video. Here I'm in my repository. This is my repository where we have the index.php file, and we also have this composer.json file. Okay, this is just one simple application taken from internet to just show you the demo of PHP. Okay, and this is my Microsoft Azure portal. Here in app services we will be creating one PHP application. So first let's go and create one web app with PHP. For that I will go in app services. We'll create one web app. Creating the web app is almost similar for all the languages or any runtime stack like .NET PHP. Here you will have to just select the runtime stack. Okay, let's now select the resource group name as well. I don't have any. Let me create it. Give the name as php-1. Give the web app name something like this. Okay, we'll select this as code, publish as code, because we will be deploying the PHP code directly from our pipelines. In the runtime stack, we will be selecting the PHP here. So make sure you select the PHP version which you are using. So I'll be using this PHP 8.3. Operating system will be Linux. Okay, and region can be yours based on your requirement. Pricing plan, you can select it. You can go for basic as well, or you can also go for free ones. Okay, click on next, and rest everything can be same if you are just doing it for demo or something like that. Networking, if you have something or if you want to use virtual network integration or even the private endpoints to connect your web app and function app privately from your virtual network, you can go for this networking settings as well. But since we don't need those things, we'll be just enabling the public access so that our web app will be accessible publicly. Okay, rest other things can be default. Once this is okay, we'll be clicking on review plus create, and it will create our web app. Click on create. This will validate the deployment and submit it, and the deployment name or deployment created will be taking care of creating our PHP web app. We'll be seeing that in few seconds. Yeah, you can see deployment is in progress. This deployment has been submitted and it's in progress. Till this is complete, let's go ahead in Azure DevOps and try to create one pipeline. We'll be creating two separate pipelines for this. We'll be creating one YAML pipeline, and we will be creating one release classic pipeline to deploy the code. YAML pipeline is just to build this PHP code and publish the artifact, and this classic pipeline we will be just using that to take the artifact and deploy this into the web app. Okay, this is complete as well. Let me click on go to resource, and you can see our web app has been created. Okay, you can browse this web app URL, this one, to check if your web app is available or not. So uh, this should be working, I think. Let's wait for a few seconds. This is taking time to load. So this should be available and working. Okay, now let's go to Azure DevOps and create one YAML pipeline. This should be working. Somehow this is taking time, but that's fine. Click on new pipeline to create a new pipeline. Select your code if you have or if you are using some different version control, you can select it, but my code is in Azure repository, so I will select this. I have this repository basic hyphen composer. You can see just this Azure DevOps is suggesting me to use the PHP task because this has just read my code, and so I mean just got it like this is PHP code, so it is suggesting me to take the PHP task. We'll select this PHP task, which is the first one. Select it, and you can see all the tasks related to build the PHP application will be coming automatically here. Okay, let's see. You can see this web app is running and waiting for your content. That means this web app is working. Let's now go to pipeline. Trigger is main. Let's remove this trigger. Set the trigger to none. Pool is my Microsoft hosted. You can use the self-hosted agent pools as well. Variables, here we will be selecting the PHP version as 8.3 because here in our web app we have the PHP version as 8.3. You can see runtime stack is PHP 8.3. So that is the PHP version we'll be setting, and we'll be running few of the commands, PHP commands, to update the PHP versions. Okay, you can see we are running these few set of commands to update this update alternative commands to set the PHP version to this PHP debug version, CGI version, and all. So we are setting this version in the agent machines. Okay, and this will show you the PHP version, which PHP version is installed. And finally we are installing this composer without interaction. We have given this hyphen hyphen no interaction. That means it will be running successful in our pipelines without asking us for prompts. Okay, and we have given this argument to not download this composer as zip file so that it will be downloaded as package and it will be installed. So these two tasks will just uh, do everything and build our application. Okay, so once this is built in application, we have to archive the code or PHP content, or you can say our build file, and publish it. So to do that, we'll have to archive it. Let's search archive here, and you can see this is the repository, or this is the task we'll be using. So let's archive this directory, system dot default working directory, because this is where we are just doing everything. Okay, let's just add it, and I will do some things here. You can see in this script command, will be just adding another argument that is of working directory, and we'll just give as this one because this is our working directory, and this is where our code is. I mean all the files are there like composer and index index php. If you have these files somewhere else, you will have to specify that location. Okay, let's do the same here as well. Set this working directory as default working directory, and we are just archiving the same directory, so all the files inside this directory will be zipped. Okay, this is done. Now let's go ahead and publish this. For that we'll be just using this publish task, publish build artifact. To do that we will be just publishing this directory, artifact staging directory, where our archive file is stored. Artifact name is drop, and this is our artifact location. Let's add this. Okay, so we have done everything whatever we can do in our PHP build pipeline. This will build our code, this will archive it, and this will publish the artifact, which can be used later in different pipelines to download that and deploy it. Okay, if you have different requirements in your project, like to add sonar cube, to add nexus iq tool for security scans and all, or to stay for static code analysis, if you want to add sonar cube, integrate that, or if you want to publish the build with this build artifact somewhere else in some third party repository, like nexus repository, you can use those tasks based on your requirement. Okay, this is just one basic php pipeline to build the php app and publish it in Azure pipeline. If you need more details about them, I have many videos related to SonarCube and Nexus IQ as well, Nexus repository as well. To integrate in the pipelines, you can go and watch them. Let's now save this pipeline and run it and see if this is working fine or not. This has created the pipeline, and you can see this has queued our pipeline as well. Okay, this is running in this pool, and the image name is human2 latest. Okay, this will select update the php version, composer will be installed, archive will be done, and this will publish the build artifact as well. Okay, so once this is done, we have to create the release pipeline. At this moment our code will not be deployed in our web app because we just have built the code and we are not deploying it. You can even create your release pipeline in different stages in the same pipeline itself, but in this tutorial I am showing you how you can create the release pipeline as well, and how you can enable continuous deployment, so that once your build pipeline is complete, your release pipeline should automatically be triggered and deploy that application, PHP application, inside your web app. Let's now create one new pipeline. Click on new release pipeline, select the empty job first. Okay, you can modify other settings like stage name. If this is for development environment, development, you can create multiple stages inside this classic release pipeline. That is just very easy. You can just clone this stage, and multiple stages will be created. You can set the dependency and all. Okay, so we don't need these many, we'll just need one stage. I will delete these two and make all the changes required to deploy that artifact, PHP artifact, in this stage itself. Let's click on add an artifact. Artifact is nothing but the output of this build pipeline, which should be stored somewhere. Let me check that build pipeline first and show you where are the artifacts. This is my pipeline. I will click on it, and if you click see this in related tab one published, this is my artifact inside this drop folder, and inside in this is zip file. So this is the artifact, and this is what I will be adding it here, so that this file will be downloaded automatically, and based on that pipeline run, this pipeline will be triggered automatically. Click on add an artifact, select the build as source type project, and select the source pipeline. Let me see which one is our pipeline. Basic PHP composer 66. This is one. This is the pipeline we have. Let's select this default version. If you might want to deploy the latest, or you can have some conditions as well, like if you want to deploy it from some specific branch, you can select it and you can add it. So our artifact has been now added. Okay, so this pipeline will download this artifact automatically. To trigger this pipeline, you can click on this button. This is continuous deployment trigger, and enable it, so that once this build pipeline is complete, it will trigger the release pipeline. Okay, let's now click on stages and try to add one task to deploy our web app. Click on plus, click on web app. So this is the task, Azure web app, and this we will use to deploy our PHP application. Let's now select the Azure subscription. I have this service connection created already. If you don't know how to create it, you can watch my previous videos. By going into the project setting, you can create the service connection. Web app on Linux, because we have created the Linux type. You can see the operating system is Linux. Select the app name. If you are not getting your app name here, just copy and paste it. Let's add this. So this is my app, and this is my package or folder. So this pipeline will download this basic PHP composer automatically inside this system default working directory, and we have given that path. You can provide this runtime stack as PHP as well, or you can just leave it blank, because we already have this defined in our web app. If you have some app settings or configuration settings, you can add it here, so that it will be deployed. Let me now save this pipeline. Just give the name as PHP pipeline. Save it. Okay, at this time we are not creating any releases, and you will be seeing that this PHP release pipeline has no release created. Okay, let's now go ahead and re-trigger our PHP composer pipeline, which will build the code again. You can also enable trigger for your build pipeline, so that whenever developer merges their code in main branch, this pipeline will also be automatically triggered by adding the trigger. Okay, for this demo we'll be just running this manually. I have run it. Let's wait for this pipeline to complete. Once this is complete, the expectation is our release pipeline, which is php-release-pipeline, should be triggered automatically, and this should deploy our PHP code in the web application which we have created here inside the Microsoft Azure. Okay, let's see. This is complete. You can see, and now you can see, if you come here in PHP release pipeline, this has just created one release. If you refresh this page, This has just created this release. You can see that today's date and time is today. Click on it and it should have triggered the stage as well. You can see this pipeline is being triggered by continuous deployment. This has selected this artifact version, that is 130.2, and if you see the artifact version of your pipeline, 130.2, this is the pipeline version, and this pipeline has taken the same artifact. You can see the latest one, and this has also started this stage. Okay, this has failed. Maybe it's related to some access token issue. Let me just uh, correct it and try to do this again. It is failed to authenticate. I think that was the incorrect Azure subscription. Let me select the app name. Yeah, this is my app name. You can select a runtime stack as well, like whatever you want. Suppose this is for PHP. Where is PHP? Our version is PHP 8.3. I think it's not here, so just run it. You can create the release from here as well, and it will deploy your code. You can see we have created this. You can see here manually triggered, and previous one it was continuous deployment. So that basically terminology you can say it's called continuous deployment when your pipeline is triggered automatically instead of manual. Let's see the logs and see if it works or not. This has downloaded the artifact. You can see download artifact basic PHP composer. It will download that zip file 250.zip, which the pipeline might have published. Okay, this has initiated the PHP deployment. If you see the logs, you can see this got the service connection details for this app service and package deployment using zip deploy initiated. This might take maybe 1 or 2 minutes of time. So let's wait for that. Okay, so our pipeline is complete, and you can see this task has run for 1 minute 54 seconds, and this has successfully deployed our PHP web app application. If you see the logs, package deployment initiated, deploy logs can be viewed at here. Successfully deployed web package to app service, successfully updated app service configuration details. The URL it is giving the deployment history URL, and this is our app service application URL. You'll be able to browse your application using this link. If you just click on it, your application will be running here. Okay, it is saying your web app is running and waiting for your content. So sometimes it takes time to load your content, so don't worry about it. This is the process you can follow to build the PHP application and deploy it. And if you have to create this kind of pipelines in any organization, this is the best approach you can follow and go ahead with it. Okay, nobody will go and just ask you why you created this kind of pipeline and or with this approach. So these are the approaches you can follow to create the pipeline, CI/CD pipelines, either YAML as build pipeline and classic as release pipeline, or you can go with both YAML pipelines. You can build as well as release as YAML pipelines. Okay, so this is one of the example, you can say real world example of building the PHP app, deploying it in Azure web app using Azure DevOps, PHP, and Microsoft Azure. That's it from this video. If you liked it, please like and subscribe my channel. If you have any feedback, suggestions, or questions, please let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.